And welcome to MotoGP After the Flag. We are here for the second official test before the 2018 season begins. Steve Day here, and I'm joined by former 500cc race winner Simon Crafar. Over the next couple of hours, we're going to be live down in pit lane to talk to reporter and commentator Matt Burt, and we're going to bring you all the feedback and the action as we head out to Thailand. Of course, it's a brand new circuit for us and for the riders. More importantly, there's a packed crowd expected on Sunday to watch just some testing action as these big boys get back out on circuit. Just a couple of weeks ago, Simon, since we were obviously out in Sepang for the last test, another shakedown. Of course, it's a new circuit, so this is more about track familiarization, I would suspect, more than actually testing parts today.
Yeah, Steve, it's always a little bit scary going into a completely new track, you know, for both riders and teams, you know, because they've got no gearbox settings, no tyre information, setup information, and you don't know where you're going. So the first day is a little bit scary for them.
Chang International Circuit, of course, it was built and opened in 2014. World Superbike have been running there and racing there since 2015. Of course, we go there later in the year, in October, before the 3 flyaway races. So this is so important, isn't it, to get themselves dialed in, especially for that round later on.
Exactly. That's why what I was meaning about is to gather all that information so they can go to the race with an idea, especially for the tyre guys, you know, to know that they've got tyres that can do the race.
We'll be crossing over to Matt in a moment to find out more information, but the temperatures out there are soaring. We've heard already that it's the summer season. I understand, we'll get more from Matt in a moment, that temperatures almost reached up to 40 degrees earlier, and it's quite a dry heat.
You can see from the video shots how dry the grass is compared to Sepang, so it's obviously a lot drier and it sounds really hot.
Well, we're going to take a look at the track layout a little bit later on, but let's, of course, now cross over to Matt Burt down live in the Sepang pit lane. I'm delighted to say that he is joining us live. Matt, when I left England a couple of days ago, there was snow. It doesn't look like it's snowing at the moment over in Buriram. What's the latest down on the ground there from the Chang International Circuit? Oh, we'll cross over to Matt in just a moment, just having a few technical issues. Of course, we are obviously here in the Barcelona newsroom. Matt over there in Thailand. The heat is something, obviously, you'll have coped with yourself riding. I was expecting, Simon, the temperatures to be similar to what we have in Malaysia with the humidity, but it just doesn't seem so. Yeah,
me too. It's obviously different. That heat is incredible, you know. I remember first experiencing it going to Malaysia. Thailand must be really similar, even hotter today. And it is so hot with that engine, like the radiator heat, you know, you're ducked in behind that fairing. It's like going into sauna for too long, you know. It really, really is. It's tough to handle.
These guys are really experienced with rehydration, though. I mean, this is key, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I learned the hard way how to do that, and it's so hard. The first race I did, I couldn't even make by halfway, and I was in good condition. It was just coming from colder climate, getting into that heat, not knowing how to keep hydrated, and literally halfway through the race you start going like this. Dangerous to finish the last laps.
Well, let's hope that one man that is keeping himself rehydrated is now live with us over at the Chang International Circuit. I hope you've got your suntan lotion packed, Matt.
Yeah, certainly have, Steve. Yeah, as you'd expect, a very, very hot opening day of track action here in Thailand, and an intriguing day at that. I've just come down to speak to you guys live from the paddock here in Buriram. Crutchlow at the same time just firing in a 1:30.7. A good start to this test for HRT, with Crutchlow on top of the timesheets and Marquez dominating most of the opening day with a 1:13.9. But as you'd expect, yes, Steve, very balmy, very hot, unlike you guys relaxing there in that nice air-conditioned office in Barcelona.
Matt, we've already seen a number of riders going out. Obviously, riders are taking cover. This is all about, as I was just saying to Simon, more about track familiarisation. What is the sort of latest feedback that you've had from the riders about the circuit?
Yeah, actually, Steve, very, very positive. I think a few riders and teams were a little bit apprehensive, shall we say, as you always are when you come to a new circuit. I think the initial concern was this morning, certainly was it, the track might be a little bit dirty, it would take quite a long time to clean up. That wasn't actually the case. Very, very early on, the circuit was cleaning. We saw some strong lap times. Marquez, the reigning world champion, no surprises to him, straight down to business. On his 4th or 5th lap of this morning's session, he was already inside the Superbike pole record, which would have been set on super sticky qualifying tyre. So the track cleaned up very, very quickly. It looks quite an easy layout. That was the feedback from some of the riders. They felt like it was going to be a little bit easier to learn than what it has been. certainly that infield section running through from turns 3 through to 11, quite tight, quite technical, so perhaps a little bit longer for them to adapt than what they anticipated. Sector 1, really Ducati territory. You've got to get a crucial exit coming out of that first corner onto that 1 kilometre straight. Lots of overtaking opportunities, certainly end of that home straight going into turn number 2. And Danilo Petrucci, great comment from him already. Few riders being caught out by that tricky 5 corner, turn number 12. Cal Crutchlow, Danny Pedrosa and Alvaro Bautista have all crashed there at some point today. All of them, thankfully, I have to say, uninjured. But it's a first gear, very tight final corner. Expect some fireworks in MotoGP. Lord knows what it's going to be like in Moto3, Steve. We know how frantic the action can be on the last lap in Moto3. Danilo Petrucci, to quote him, says it will be like a circus come October on the last lap of the MotoGP race. We can't wait.
Buriram circuit for World Superbike. Last corner was absolutely mental. Simon, I'm sure you've got a few words that you'd like to ask Matt as well.
Well, anywhere you go from hard out top speed to first gear, Matt, it's got to be scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really has, Simon. I think the issue as well, certainly with turn 12 here, there was a few concerns coming to Buriram. This circuit is used all year round due to the tropical climate. They have a lot of car racing goes on here, and what we do know, of course, car racing with the heavier braking forces, they do tend to create a lot of bumps and a lot of ripples. That was a concern for the teams of riders coming here to Thailand. The riders saying actually the surface is pretty good. It offers really good grip. It cleaned up very quickly, as we mentioned a few moments ago, and it's not as bumpy as what they thought, although going into that tight turn 12 there are a few ripples and bumps on the entry. So you're right, Simon, coming from a flat out nailed a 6 gear straight into a first gear tight hairpin, there's always going to be drama, and it's going to be exaggerated by the fact that the riders hard heavy braking at lean angle are also having to cope with a few bumps as well, so it'll be pretty harem scarum come October.
Matt, I just want to try and get an idea from you as well, because you're out there, about the fans here as well in Thailand. As we already know, the Asia Pacific region, they've got a huge fan base. We get so many come to Sepang, but Thailand are so excited. I hear that there's going to be around 30,000 fans expected on Sunday.
Yeah, it's already crazy, I think is the optimum word I can use here, Steve. In the middle of Buriram, there are already ginormous advertising posters and hoardings advertising, not the race, the test. Yet we're told by the circuit that we could expect a crowd of 30,000 fans here on Sunday. 30,000 for a MotoGP test. That is completely unheard of. Heady times for MotoGP here in the Southeast Asian region. We've seen unbelievable growth in the Malaysian Grand Prix. Of course, Malaysian fans getting a superb boost here as well, with Syahrin, the first Malaysian rider in history to throw his leg over a MotoGP bike. I'm sure you'll be talking a bit more about Syahrin later on in the programme. But yeah, interest booming, Steve. 30,000 fans expected to come through the gates. There are already vendors outside of the circuit setting up for some pretty brisk business here throughout the weekend. This region, we've talked to a few riders already this weekend, they are treated like rock stars. Jorge Lorenzo and Andrea Dovizioso did a promotional event for Ducati in Bangkok just a few days ago. Some riders have been doing promo work for their factories and teams in Indonesia. We don't even have a race in Indonesia, and the riders are treated like the Beatles. There are hundreds of fans waiting for them, greeting them off the plane at the airport. So it's great for the fans that we have another race here in the Southeast Asian region. Superb that the Malaysian Grand Prix has grown to the extent it has, and Thailand, there's a real buzz of expectation and anticipation around Buriram. Everybody has embraced this event already. It's 6 months before we come back here for the race, but it promises to be an absolute cracker. Can't wait.
Before we let you go and get in the cool and get some water on board, we understand that Ducati have their new aero fairing. Any sign of that yet?
Yeah, Ducati, very, very busy week for them. Gigi Dall'Igna, Ducati course, the general manager, telling us yesterday, Steve, that they've got a busy week. Not only have Jorge Lorenzo and Andrea Dovizioso got to cope with learning this new Buriram track, but they've got an update on the chassis, which was a big improvement on that mid-corner turning issue, which has been a long-standing Achilles heel for the factory Ducati team, going back all the way really to the Casey Stoner era. They made a big step with that in Malaysia. They've bought another evolution of the chassis. No indication as yet, it's pretty hard to spot any changes to the frames in MotoGP these days. But we are led to believe that Dovizioso and Renzo will try out a further upgrade on the chassis, aimed at improving in that key area, mid-corner turning, which if they can get that right, well, the Ducati last year was a real weapon with Andrea Dovizioso winning 6 races and almost winning the World Championship in Valencia. Well, the rest of the field had better watch out. But as you say, Steve, whenever you mention the two words Ducati and fairing, there's always a wave of excitement that sweeps through the paddock. Thailand has been no exception so far this week. 3 different fairings were led to believe that the Bologna factory will be assessing. Andrea Dovizioso has been out on 2, what Ducati are calling a base fairing, if you like, similar to what Andrea preferred last year. If you remember rightly last year at the Hoy Lorenzo, when that new radical aero solution came out from Ducati in Brno, Lorenzo really loved it. The extra downforce he felt was really good for his riding style. That corner entry to carry those sweeping lines for the corner speed. Dovizioso was a bit so-so in many respects. He kept switching back and forth depending on which circuit we were at or depending on which conditions. But Andrea's been out on 2 of those 3 fairings he's got to analyse so far. We haven't seen Lorenzo out on them so far. Ducati being pretty cagey. The second one looks fairly similar to what Lorenzo was running throughout the second half of last year. Ducati saying that really it's kind of it looks pretty aggressive. They say it's a little bit wider to give the riders more protection on the straights. Of course, every thousandth of a second counts these days in MotoGP. So we'll keep close tabs on what the factory Ducati guys are doing. Just to give you a little bit more of an update as well, Suzuki have a new exhaust here. Problems for Aprilia this morning, actually. Scott Redding encountered very on. Him and Alex Espargaro have one 2018 RSGP bike between them each here in Thailand, but a problematic start for the British rider Scott Redding. Problems with the brakes and electronics in this morning session, and then we're told an engine blow up on his only 2018 RSGP. So his mechanics working round the clock here in Buriram, trying to get that fixed to get Scott Redding back out on the circuit on their new bike. We expect a full new engine upgrade to come for the Aprilia next time out in Qatar.
Thanks ever so much for your latest update. We'll be catching up with Matt throughout the next couple of days, and go and get yourself in the shade, and we'll be catching up with you a bit later on. I know you've got some interviews to conduct.
Yeah, I have, Steve. Yeah, these are not conditions or the climate for a white Englishman like me. You know that. Good luck, boys. Enjoy the show.
Thanks
very much there to Matt Burt down in pit lane at the Chang International Circuit. Simon, we were talking about the heat element before. We've got so much to look forward to, but that is such a big issue, isn't it? These riders are acclimatised to it. They do know what to do. You were talking about rehydration before, but there's been a long breaks for these riders. They've been going into pit lane, they've been sitting in, they've been keeping themselves cool.
A maximum of 10 lap runs we've seen. It's the longest ones we've seen. Nobody's done more, unless they've just done it recently. But that makes sense because when you're learning a track, I've noticed, I think everybody's pretty much the same, is you go out there and tear around and learn how to get better on each corner, and after a while your lap times come down, and then they plateau, and it's like your brain has had enough. You can't process anymore. You need a break. You come in, get a drink of water, give some feedback to the mechanics. When you go back out, it's like you start off exactly your best lap where you were before and continue, and the times come down again. It's almost like it needs a rest, and in that heat even more so.
Well, we're going to look at the track in a moment. I mean, how long does it take, I was going to ask, on average, for a rider to properly get to know a circuit?
I think the first day is lost. It doesn't matter whether you're a track day rider or a MotoGP guy. The first day is just gathering info, It's not until, I've noticed, second morning. But like you go through the first day, by the end of the first day, you know where you're going. But the problem is you're tired, so you're fighting it. Second morning, you go out, you know where you're going, push, and the first time you start smiling.
Well, let's have a little closer look at the circuit. We'll talk more about that in a moment. We'll even get an onboard lap from a street bike perspective as well. But Matt Burt, who we just caught up with in pit lane, was in a car, a reasonably priced one at that, with Bradley Smith to take a look around this 4.6 kilometre circuit.
As long as you drive safe, I'm happy with it.
So, Bradley, good morning. Welcome to the Chang International Circuit here in Buriram. Welcome to Dorna MotoGP Chauffeur Services.
Thank you.
You're our tour guide today for our first exclusive look at this circuit, which we'll be racing at come October. Now, before we start this hot lap in this Honda Civic, I just wanted to get your impressions of how you go about the process of learning a circuit that you've never been to before. What do you do? Do you watch old videos of superbike races? I know that you ran the circuit yesterday, but what's the process for Bradley Smith learning about a new track?
Yeah, so obviously I have a little bit of an upper hand here just because I come here for a PR event 3 years ago. So I already did like 3-4 laps, you know, on a bike. So I remembered, but it's amazing when you get here, like how much you don't remember, if that makes sense. You know, like you know more or less, but it's the small details that count. Watching superbikes is very useful. I've watched it, I think, 15, 16 and 17. You know, just to kind of get an idea of how the track's progressing, a couple of the different lines, you know, from different riders, and kind of get an idea about how I think it's going to lay out. But yeah, I mean, we need to get out and ride. You know, we need to feel how the tyres work here, how the KTM works here, and then how we approach. Because there's one thing, like you say, running the track at, you know, 12 k's an hour. There's another thing racing around it at 350.
Well, we won't be doing 12 k's an hour, hopefully.
Okay.
We won't be doing 350 k's an hour either. But shall we go and have a look at this Chang
let's
International Circuit?
Let's go ahead.
Let's go. Finally, let's go.
Right,
Don't look so worried, mate. We have got full insurance. Don't worry.
That's it.
I don't think we're going to be beating any lap records. But anyway, off the line, Bradley. Quite a short run down to turn one.
Yeah. So basically, I think this won't be 6th gear. I think it will be 5th gear, and then probably back shift to 2nd. Surprisingly, it looks quite an open corner, but the apex is actually quite narrow, and it's a narrow exit there. So a little bit off camber, so it naturally pushes you wide, you know, on the exit there. So it's going to be key to kind of not run wide at turn one, otherwise you're going to lose your time all the way down this long straight.
Yeah, and this straight, I mean, a kilometre in length, and like you say, so crucial, your exit out of that first corner, because to lose driving here, you're losing 2/10, 3/10.
You're going to be kicking yourself, so, you know, to sacrifice 0.1 there, like you said, you know, to get the drive down into here. Now, this is a slightly different layout, you know, how they have the straight with a bit of a left kink in it. Reminds me similar to Spielberg, you know, where you come down into turn 2 there. But obviously
slightly
not going.
Undulation.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have an uphill, you have a downhill here into the hairpin. So I think that hairpin's gonna, and by what I've looked at all the videos, you know, a lot of the guys coming in, you know, in tight here, drifting wide at the
Maverick Vinales having a good look out there as well. This looks like a good overtaking spot as well.
Definitely going to be a good overtaking spot. You see a lot of guys lunging, you know, obviously different bikes strong on the brakes. Then again preparing the exit. Now this straight actually goes uphill, which, let's say for MotoGP, you won't find it so difficult. But I can imagine if it's a headwind, like in Moto2 or Moto3, it's going to make a massive difference, you know, for the guys coming. Not only are you uphill, which drags the speed down, but into the headwind as well. So we'll see a lot of slipstreaming down both of these straights, which will make for exciting racing.
Grain's so important to get a good drive out of that hairpin.
Crucial. Then it's blind, as you can see, like braking, you know, into here. I would say this is going to be the fastest corner on the racetrack. I guess I'm going to say 4th gear. Obviously, you know, super fast into this left-hander. Again, narrows a little bit on the exit, so it'll be fast going in, but then won't be too fast in the middle of here.
This is where it gets a little bit tighter. We're going to get a slipstream here by the looks of it from Johan Zarco on his scooter.
Quite a wide entry into here, so I think you'll see some lunging moves into there. A double apex, I would say this is going to be 2nd, maybe short shift to 3rd, you know, through this sweeping left. This is quite a technical one, because getting the timing right is going to be crucial there. Pulling the bike over to this side of the track. Now this right is actually double apex. You know, you'll see the first apex here, and then it goes straight, and then a second one. So it's going to be all about timing of getting it over to the right hand side there. Again, over to the outside curbs, and then I would say we're probably coming into sector 3, I guess. And not really many overtaking manoeuvres. You know, this is kind of where it's going to get a little bit stagnant because it's quite a narrow racetrack at this part.
Yeah, it looks a bit one line through here.
Yeah, very one line. So it's going to be a case of, you know, defending if it comes to a last lap or something like that. I believe it's going to be a tight line into this right-hander, you know, hugging to the curb. And then this is where it's going to be interesting to see tyre life. And I think this is where, you know, if you're going to have rear tyre problems, it's going to be in this section. Right, left, going to be high speed, a lot of spinning, I would say, out of this left.
We can have sound effects as well if you want to do sound
effects.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, probably blue smoke coming from the Michelin. And then kink right. And again, you can already see the tyre marks being left from previous races here, you know, so the things will be spinning there. So I think that's going to be crucial.
Now we're on the run down to what is probably the tightest final corner on the calendar now, and this to me just cries out kamikaze last lap braking manoeuvre.
Absolutely, can't wait for Moto 2 or Moto 3 into here, but even MotoGP. You know, this reminds me of China. You know, the old hairpin there, one of the slowest corners. You know, certainly going to be exciting, and the fact that, you know, it's such a short run to the finish line, you know, is going to even encourage more and more guys to get into there. I would say that's going to be a first gear corner, probably the only first gear corner on the racetrack. Accelerating out of there, you know, again, MotoGP, we're going to be wheelie in first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and finish the lap. So what is it, 4.5 kilometers, but 1 minute 30, you know, 31 lap times or something like that. So be interesting to see the layout here. I think it's going to be a great test for us. We're going to have a lot of Michelin tyres to try out, I can imagine, you know, ready for the GP, and you know, preparing everything as best as we can for October.
Perfect, Bradley. We appreciate you being our exclusive tour guide around this Chang International Circuit in Buriram.
As a tour guide, do they give me a lollipop?
Yeah, we'll get that. That's coming afterwards.
That's all right.
But thanks again, mate. We do appreciate it.
Welcome.
Obviously, good luck this week at the test. Crucial for the teams to get information, and good luck when we come back here in October. We've pulled up perfectly on pole position.
Yeah, I
we
like
hope
it
that this
here.
is a good omen. So
maybe
in a few months' time, you'll be sat here on pole when we come back here in October. No pressure.
Even see the grid lights.
yeah, you won't need the binoculars. That was bad, Chang.
Yeah, that's it. It's all right.
We can cut it there.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's the last time
we're done. One lap only. We're not doing take 2.
Great stuff there from Matt Burt and Bradley Smith. I don't know where they got the car from, but come on, let's have Matt in something a bit quicker next time. Just so you know, in terms of what's going on live over at the Chang International Circuit at the moment, the times on the left of your screen there, you can see are pretty much frozen now because the last 15 minutes of this session have been dedicated to practice start. So Cal Crutchlow will end the day as the fastest rider on day one in Thailand with a 30.797. We'll discuss more on that later in the show. We'll go over all of the times, and hopefully we'll get some live interviews coming through from you as well, from Matt Burt. We just saw the circuit there, Simon. It's something a little different. It bears resemblances, doesn't it, to the Red Bull Ring?
When you'd said that earlier, I agree completely. It's the same sort of thing. When I first saw the track map, I picked it up as a rider and looked at it, and I went, it's got at least one first gear corner leading onto a straight, maybe 2 second gear corners or 2 first and 1 second, which means if you've got a fast bike, it's strong. It's a horsepower track, you know. Obviously grip because of they've got the heat, but it's a horsepower track. So if you've got an advantage power-wise, it's going to really play in your favour, I believe.
We've not had any MotoGP action around there yet, so we've not got any onboard footage in terms of from a MotoGP perspective, but we do have an onboard lap from a street bike, which we'll have a look at whilst we talk over. Bradley, in particular, there mentioning turn 1, and it seems like a key part of the circuit as we ride on board now into turn 1. Easy to run wide on the exit. Yeah,
it's a 90 degrees, so it's quite similar to something like a little bit more open than Jerez, something like Portimao, and so I think it's going to be all right. It's the ones that are tighter than that make it more tricky, you know.
First lap here as we go along this long back straight down into a hairpin. We're going to see all sorts of overtaking opportunities.
This one's scary because you're going from, like we mentioned earlier, the fastest speed on the track down into a little tight first gear corner, you know, and to me it's very difficult to judge, you know, where to brake and not blow it. 1 millisecond later and you're going to hit the guy in front.
This is where Bradley said there's the fastest point, and you could just see there, braking zone, very tricky to get right. It's a blind entry, but fastest left-hander on the circuit.
It looks really nice. Plenty of runoff, a lot like Aragon, turns 5 at Aragon through there, 6. It looks great. It's actually really similar to Aragon, that section. I think great and safe.
Bradley was just saying one line perhaps through here, maybe not in Moto3 or Moto2.
Yeah, but like I said, because it's a nice flowing section, I think the riders will enjoy this part.
And so here we go. It opens up slightly in a moment once we get around this turn. This is going to be a test on the tyres once we exit this right-hander.
Right-hand side all the way around this track is going to be a real test.
Here we go. Change of direction here. This is where we're really going to see the bike sideways.
Yep. Yeah, driving through the left, you're right.
Take a slight kink right and then into what looks like one of the most important and certainly the crucial part of the circuit, the final turn.
And here you'll see what I mean about horsepower. You've got to slow it right down, get it back and get a good run onto the straight, and look, it's just up to the engine, isn't it?
Well, there we are. There's a lap of the Chang International Circuit then in Buriram, 4.6 kilometres. It looks like in terms of lap times being up there in the top 5 of the shortest circuits, and it looks like Cal Crutchlow's got off to a brilliant start at 1:30.797 ahead of Alex Rins. Well, we'll certainly discuss that a little bit more later on. Now, before we go on any further, we need to talk to you about riders that are here that perhaps weren't in our last test in Sepang, and of course we need to talk to you about absentees. And first of all, we've got to go to KTM, Simon, and talk about the fact that Mika Kallio, as ever, is in as KTM's dedicated test rider. He did have a fall earlier on. Pleased to say he's okay. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Pol Espargaro. The news broke a couple of days ago that he is not able to participate here in this test. Interestingly, a lot of people thought that it was because of the crash he sustained in Sepang, but it wasn't. I thought the same, but it turns out he's had a hernia problem. And it was niggled a little more after the crash in Sepang. He's had surgery on Monday and misses this test.
When we say hernia, it's not stomach, it's in your spine.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I believe he'll be all right. The beginning of the season, he'll be fine. They've got Kallio there and Bradley getting information from this track. I think his main aim is to be well for the first race, and if he is physically well, I don't think this will hold him back much because he knows the first track he's going to, the bike has data, he'll be fine. Missing this test only is only going to handicap him for this race.
For round 15 later in the year. But it's not confirmed yet that he'll be definitely fit for the Qatar test. That is a test that is quite important to make.
Yeah, for the first race. He's going to be behind the 8 ball if he doesn't go to it, yeah.
Well, KTM, as ever, will obviously have lots of things to test. As you say, they've got a trusty man on board here to give them as much data as possible. So when he does arrive here at the start of October, later in the year, at least he's going to have some data from Mika Kallio to go on. But yeah, he's going to miss out on 3 days of track knowledge.
And Mika's done an awesome job the last year or so, hasn't he? When he's arrived at Grand Prix, he's been competitive, even been ahead of the full-time riders. So I think, he's doing a great job.
In terms of Pol's mentality, though, I mean, it's easier said than done, us two here discussing the fact that it's not the end of the world, but I mean, he will be gutted. I know the KTM team are devastated. Yeah,
but like I said, I think they've got to just look at it as the first race. They've got to try and make the first race good as possible, and I really think it's not too big a worry. And he's obviously in good condition physically. It's not like he had to lose half of winter, no physical training. He's in great nick. It's an old injury, they're just repairing it so he doesn't have trouble during the season.
Okay, well, we're seeing here some shots of Mika Kallio out on circuit with the Red Bull KTM. Bradley Smith then will have a slight advantage ahead of his teammate Pol Espargaro when we return to Thailand later in the year. And they are the dates of October the 5th, 6th and 7th. We can just see there, top left, checkered flag is out. So the times are done. They've been out for their practice starts. We're going to get classification on screen for you in a moment. We'll run through the order, and like I said, we'll talk more about what's actually happened a little later on. So let's get a rundown then of the classification for you. Cal Crutchlow, LCR Honda, despite a tumble at turn 12, has ended the day as fastest overall. Here you see confirmation of 1:30.797, a time posted at the very end of the session. Alex Rins, what a job from the Suzuki rider. Second quickest here today, ahead of Marquez. Andrea Dovizioso on the Ducati there in fourth, but not a lot in it. Look at that, a couple of tenths between the top five. Danny Pedrosa is in fifth, ahead of Danilo Petrucci and Jack Miller. So pretty good day so far there for the Pramac Ducati team. Valentino Rossi, the birthday boy, more on that later. He's eighth, ahead of Andrea Iannone on the Suzuki, who is ninth. Jorge Lorenzo, of course, did so well in Sepang a few weeks ago, is 10th, ahead of Maverick Vinales, who won't want to see his name outside the top 10 too often this season. No panic here today, though, just getting used to the track. Zarco's in 12th, Tito Rabat then follows in 13th. Good effort there from the Spaniard, ahead of Alvaro Bautista, Aleix Espargaro, Scott Redding on the Aprilia. He'll be encouraged to see that he's matching the times there of his teammate Aleix. And Taka Nakagami, the fastest of the rookies again, in 17th. 18th is Carol Abraham, then Franco Morbidelli, Bradley Smith, Tom Luthi, Xavier Simeon, who had a fall earlier on. He's okay, bike not so much. Mika Kallio then, of course, testing on the KTM. And Hafiz Syahrin, the Malaysian, on the Tech3 Yamaha in 24th place. We'll hopefully get some reaction from all of the guys, particularly Cal, who was fastest, a bit later on in the show. But we just mentioned Hafiz Syahrin, and we now move on to the Malaysian rider. It was confirmed a week or two ago that Hervé Poncharal would give the opportunity to the Malaysian Moto2 rider to race here in this test. That's, at the moment, just the test, although there are rumours that maybe a deal could be done to go into Qatar and then the season ahead. What an opportunity for Hafiz Syahrin, son.
It's huge. Like, can you imagine, it's your dream aiming at MotoGP and all of a sudden you get that opportunity. You know, the other thing, like people... I so hope that he does well. It's going to be good for that whole region of the world, to have a guy from Asia in there. But also, people, it's easy to make preconceptions of how you think he'll go, and it's very hard to do that because you can't always go on what they've done in the lower classes, the smaller classes, because MotoGP is something else, You've got to really use your brain, work with the team, and I would say it halves the amount of guys, that can actually move up and go well. And I really hope that he clicks. I don't think you have to be a winner in Moto2 to be really successful in MotoGP. It's how you work it out, how you bond with the bike, the team, and to get most out of that incredibly fast machine.
He's known as being a very consistent rider. He got himself a podium at the end of last year as well. We saw him crying on the podium. He was so happy. This is a completely different ballgame. He was expecting to line up on the Moto2 grid. He's now got this huge opportunity, and it is massive because you heard Matt earlier talking about the riders being rock stars. Well, in this part of the world, Hafiz Syahrin already is a rock star. So this is massive for Malaysia.
Yeah, and just to go back to what I meant about the opportunity, life's about opportunities, isn't it? Grabbing them as they come by. And to see him get one like this is fantastic. I hope he really does something with it. It's going to be hard, for him to adapt.
You've ridden in Tech3 yourself, so it's a nice team to come into, isn't it? They treat you so well, and they will make sure. Bearing in mind, Jonas Folger was injured for a number of rounds last year. We've seen other riders come in to replace. Michael van der Mark said that the team were brilliant. They treated him with respect and got to know everything really quickly.
They were the first team that I rode for, big team, that I rode for in Europe, and I still have a kind of bond with them. They treated me so well. It was like a family, literally is a family environment. And they're also very good at explaining the technical side of riding. They taught me how to use the data from the bike, as a rider. And he's a lucky boy going into that spot.
He certainly is, and whilst we're talking about Tech3, of course, he will be learning from the one and only Johan Zarco, who's next door on the number 5. Johan, of course, spectacular last year in his rookie season, went well in the Sepang test as well. All the talks were, of course, what chassis would he be using? Well, hopefully we'll be able to find out a bit more now.
I'm gonna use the 16 chassis because after the Malaysia test, I was feeling good on it, and I decided to take what I know and make make to me the way very clear for the season. Know what I have, know what I can do, and with the experience and also better little things on the bike, I should fight for the podium. That's the target. And about here, the first thing, the program for the work is work with the electronic. Just fix the electronic in all the corners to have like a safe bike to go fast on it. And after the electronic, then I will be able to push every lap faster and faster. And in this way, we will be able to also choose which tire or give information to Michelin.
So that means that the 17 chassis, you won't try it anymore?
Not for that Buriram test, and if I'm going well and I am with the top guys here, it will be still the 2016 chassis I'm going to use in Qatar. We keep it open, but I'm happy to have at the moment clear way using the 16 one.
Thank you, Syahrin.
Thanks.
Sounds like then, unless it's an absolute disaster here in Thailand, that 2018 will be the 2016 chassis for Johann Zarco. It's not really a huge surprise, is it, Simon, that he's made his mind up already, because Zarco's the type of guy that wants to work on a base, get that sorted, and then move on.
Yeah, and he liked the chassis last year, didn't he? I mean, it sounds sad saying I've got a 2016 chassis, but it's not. It's like it's a chassis that worked better, you know. So why take something when they veered off the wrong way a little? Why have that one? It was interesting what he said there, how he's saying about safety with the electronics before he can really get up to speed. He doesn't want to hurt himself, and then he can give better feedback, and that's exactly how it works. You cannot give good feedback until you're really up to speed, you know. Otherwise, again, you can go off the wrong direction.
Imagine being privy and party to the conversation going on between Johann Zarco and Guy Coulon, two men that love a nice methodical chat. So we'll see how those two pair up this year. Of course, we're all excited to see how the Flying Frenchman gets on when we race in Qatar a month today. Don't forget, 28 days until the season properly gets underway. That's enough then on Johann Zarco and Tech3. Perhaps we'll talk more about him as the next couple of days go on. We will stay with Yamaha though, of course. There's all sorts of chat about what's going to happen this year with Yamaha. Have more talk, of course, about Valentino Rossi and what he will be doing. Will he be staying? Well, we'll talk more about that in a moment. But today is a very special day for Valentino Rossi. It's his birthday, 39 today, and still not out. A very happy birthday to him. This is what his rivals and fellow people in the paddock think about this.
Valentino has the same passion, the same drive, he's the same talent, but he has one other thing. They have a tennis racket, he has a motorcycle, which sometimes isn't the best motorcycle. So he still has that potential to win championships for sure, no doubt in my mind. And I'd definitely put him in the greatest, easy.
Every time he has a birthday, I'm reminded about my age and how he has so much passion. It's sort of unexplainable, really, when you look at when I look at what I was like. You know, I mean, I have passion, but nothing like that guy.
39, it's a big number. Keep going, mainly because he retains the passion for the sport. He trains with these young riders all the time. You know, he's working out in the gym every day, and yeah, it's quite phenomenal.
Valentino is one of the most incredible sportsmen in the history, not only in MotoGP. Because fighting for the title after 20 years of racing, he won the title with 500 two-stroke. He won the title with 1000 cc. So he fights for the title every year. It's incredible. At 39 years, hats off to him.
An incredible ambassador for our sport with the motivation and the speed he still has at 39 years old. Sometimes it's embarrassing for us that he's beating us, you know, with the motivation and attitude he still has and the speed he still has. It's always good to still learn from him, to look at what he does as a professional, and yeah, I look forward to many more battles with him on the circuit this year.
Well, I really chapeau to him. This is really cool. I like that a lot, that really in a higher age, let's say, he's still very competitive, and he really shows to all the world that it's still possible if you are mental fit enough, if you are ready in your head, then you can do a lot until a high age.
It's something really, really impressive. What Valentino is doing with 39 years old, something that all the riders want to do, because in the end, keep the motivation, keep the level. During all that years, nobody did in the past, and he's able every season to improve, to keep the motivation.
It's nice to see Vale still here. I prefer to continue to battle with him still when I'm racing. I mean, for sure it's very tough to beat him, but it's always nice to have a lot of big talent and a special person like him.
As they always say, age is just a number, but the important is how old you are in your mind and in your spirit, and Vale is very young under those aspects.
I don't see him tired or at the end, or I see him still motivated, so that's why maybe you're going to make same question for a few years more.
Happy birthday, Valentino. Enjoy your day. That for sure is always very special. And nothing, congratulations. You are an amazing example for all the riders who are actually racing with you, but especially to the young people who find in you the motivation to see that it's possible to stay more than 20 years in the elite of the sport, and always thinking how to improve and winning and fighting for a world championship with 39.
Some great comments there from his friends, from members of his team, some not so good friends as well, some rivals out there. I'm not sure if some of those riders were forced to say things about Rossi. Look, love him or hate him, what a guy, Simon. 39 years of age. There are not many sports people in any form of any discipline that could do what he does at his age.
That's what I love about sport. I think what everyone loves about sport is it makes you feel something, because he's so often done something special that has made us go, oh my God, this is incredible, and he's still doing it, so yeah, it's great.
We're going to get a chat in a moment with Lynn Jarvis about this contract renewal with Valentino Rossi, so we'll find out a little bit more then. But at what point in your career, for example, did you decide, right, this is it for me? Because it doesn't look like Rossi's got that at the moment.
I think as a professional sports person, you have to wake up every morning thinking how you can be better. Every morning. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday after the last race or during the season. Every morning you wake up going, how can I be better? Whether it's food, whether it's training, whether you're trying to work on with a mechanic, what bike setup, every day. If you don't do that, you won't get to the top. And at a certain point, it's got to be the most important thing in your life, And I got to a point where there was some political things. It was the most important thing in my life, and I got one stage I wasn't going well, and I said, "Can we change tyres?" And I got told, "Simon, it's easier to change the rider than the tyres," And I went, "Ooh." And I can laugh now, but I didn't then. But it kind of broke me, and I was like, oh. But until something like that happens, if you're it keeps on a roll, and Valley has obviously still got that hunger to wake up every morning, whether it's the most important thing in his life. It's awesome.
It certainly is. Well, we just saw a moment ago some comments from Lynn Jarvis. So let's see. Will Valentino Rossi be racing past 40?
Well, yeah, yesterday, we were actually in Manila yesterday in the Philippines for a promotional event, and Valentino explained to the media there that, right now he definitely has the intention and the desire to continue. It's not yet clear whether he may decide to do a one-year contract or perhaps a two-year contract. We're in close contact, we've talked to each other already. We decided that anyway we'd like to see a few tests at least, under the belt before making a decision, maybe a few races. So right now anyway, I was very curious to read Carlo Pernat's comments. Perhaps he knows something that I don't, but generally I prepare the contract, so So anyway, I can assure you that nothing is done at the moment. But I would imagine it won't be too long until Valentino's situation is clarified, and I fully expect him to be with us again on the grid next year.
Last time we were in this situation, Yamaha moved very, very quickly in the market. You found a very fast resolution with both Jorge Lorenzo and Valentino. You've done that again this year. You've already signed up Maverick Vinales that we know for the next 2 years. I seem to recall that Valentino was signed at the first Grand Prix in Qatar. Do you think we might have something similar, or do you think both sides will prefer to wait a little bit longer just to understand his level of competitiveness?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I think these 3 tests are important. You know, we've obviously done one, and Valentino was feeling comfortable straight away. So I haven't, we haven't set ourselves a time frame at the moment. But we wanted also to get Maverick sorted out, because Maverick expressed a desire to be able to decide his future, to relieve himself of that pressure. Obviously, being just 23 years of age, he was somebody that we definitely wanted to keep, and we see a long career for him. So Valentino's announcement, you will be the first to know, and we'll see when it will be.
Thanks there to Matt Burt talking to Lynn Jarvis. I think we're all expecting the announcement pretty soon that Valentino will continue. We'd be certainly shocked if we head to Qatar in a month's time and find out that this is going to be the final swan song. Well, let's now move on to the action that's actually taken place today. We shouldn't pay too much attention to it. As we've said, it's all about track familiarization here today, but Cal Crutchlow, fastest, the LCR rider. It's always good news, regardless as to what's going on in a test, to top the end of day one, Simon.
Yep. Excuse me. It's not surprising to me that there's a couple of guys like Carl, Rins, Miller was going really well right up until the end there. Well, he is going well. I think it, on the first day of a test, it shows if your bike works well at that track, but especially that how hungry you are, because the first day of a test is, like I said, hard, a little bit scary. You don't know. It's a little bit risky because you're doing those braking points at really high speed down to slow speed when you don't know the track well, and the guys that are the hungriest kind of float to the top early in the test, and as the time moves on, the experienced guys, good bike setups float back through, but shows how Carl, look at him go, how hungry he is,
Well, he's always hungry. You can never doubt that. I mean, he mentioned in his life, he never gives much away, obviously. At the start of tests, he didn't give much away over in Sepang, and hopefully we'll hear from him at some point soon. But he needs a good season as well. I'm not saying last year was a disaster by any stretch, because when he was competitive, he was up there. But he'll want more trophies, more silverware in the cabinet, just as he had in 2016.
Like we know, Honda had a tough year last year, and I think Carl's results showed, that they had a tough year. The star boy just showed how good he was, making up for the deficiencies, So I think Carl, if Honda get back on track, Carl will shine,
Talking of the star boy, Marc Marquez, of course, he's looking for another world championship. He's got 4 out of the last 5 seasons. Let's talk a bit more now about Marc Marquez. It's always very, very difficult to know exactly what you're getting from Marc Marquez in pre-season testing.
Yeah, I mean, you normally don't get anything but 100%, do you? And I think he's great at that. He'll go out and push really hard straight away to give them the best feedback possible, because that's what it takes.
Do you think that he wears his cards on his sleeve though in testing always? I mean, he wasn't necessarily always fighting for that fast lap over in Sepang.
Yeah, but I think because he's doing the homework, which will pay off in the race, doing more laps on old tyres, which is going to be more rewarding later.
So we look here at Marc Marquez, of course, a good start to the season, crucial as ever. Marc has, in the last couple of seasons, had some catching up to do. The midway part of the season. Let's see if he can hit the ground running in Qatar, and we'll monitor the progress of the world champion over the next couple of days. One name that certainly, I can't say it surprised us, because we know that he's been progressing. But second today, Alex Rins, once again, Simon. We talked about him in After the Flag in Sepang, and he just keeps getting better and better and stronger and stronger.
Like I said, first day of the test, the hunger, but also, natural ability and hunger show that, through on the first day of the test, and that's what we're seeing with him. Like I said, the super talent come through from Moto2.
These guys, obviously, at the moment, they've still got quite a few things to test. We've mentioned already, Rins has gone out there. He's posted the second fastest time. We said in the Sepang test that we wouldn't be surprised to see him fighting for podiums. I mean, this must be brilliant for Davide Brivio. We had a really tough year at the office last year.
Well, Suzuki need Rins, don't they? They really do, you know. And if they can give him what he needs, I think he's going to squeeze everything out of it that he's got. Basically, he's coming through on the same path as Marquez, isn't he? And and Zarco, like top of Moto2, super talented, clever boys, and super hungry, good work ethic, and that's what it takes.
Davide Brivio mentioned earlier that he's got a few different things to test. I saw an interview with him, and he's particularly, we heard from Matt saying that they've got some new exhausts to test as well. It must be very difficult. We'll get some shots of those exhausts for you in a moment. It must be very difficult, though, as we've said before, to really get an idea as to whether or not it's going to be worth using on the first day of on a new circuit.
Yeah, I think power-wise, they're going to know. It's more setting that they'll struggle with on the first day. Even right up till the last day, because you've got to be going fast to test anything chassis-wise. For example, we've got good shots of the boys now working on it, but I used to be an Öhlins tech, and you'd notice that the guys would all say, the bike's too hard on the first days, and then by the last day they're back where they were at the last race. It's hard again, so you have to go fast enough for that hard setting to feel good. Otherwise it just feels chattery and not confidence inspiring. But I think exhaust-wise, engine-wise, they can still do it at a lower speed because you can feel if it's got more torque and more forgiving, easier to ride, and top speed will show through.
Going from blue to red now, and we'll talk a bit about Ducati. Of course, Jorge Lorenzo was fastest in the last test in Sepang, but the man who was fighting for the World Championship up until the final round at Valencia last year was Andrea Dovizioso. We heard already that they've tried this new aero package out. They're the masters when it seems to be the first people that make a move when it comes to new aero designs, and they're at it again.
I think they were in the lead, weren't they? And you'll know better than me, or Matt will, the rules have been relaxed a little to encourage them to play again, and the new one looks fantastic. It looks nice and black, but you'll notice in white, the lighter colours, they look bigger. So these first things coming in black already look big. They're going to look huge when they're white and red.
You mentioned in Sepang that obviously this season is completely different for Andrea Dovizioso in comparison to years gone by, because I don't think many people expected him to actually fight for a championship. Now he believes himself that he can do it. But what I'm really interested in, Simon, is the dynamics between him and Jorge Lorenzo, because Jorge is inevitably going to make that step up. Now everything's harmonious at the moment in Ducati, not surprising given the fact that Dovi is a really nice guy, a really calm guy, but these two could be properly locking horns this year.
Yeah, and there's always going to be some tension if there's two guys in the team fighting for the same position, It's a good example, these two riders, how different they are. One, their riders are always made up of a certain level of natural ability, a certain level of work ethic, and Dovi is a great example of huge work ethic, methodical, good at good testing feedback, and obviously natural ability and work ethic. Then you look at Lorenzo, who is amazing natural talent, incredible, and it's figuring out what he needs to apply that, and it looks like they are, because Lorenzo's getting more comfortable, so it could be a little bit more in the team. You did right.
From a neutral perspective, I think we hope there's a bit more needle anyway. Staying with Ducati, but just moving on to the satellite team, Pramac, they've had another good day. Danilo Petrucci, I think, will be happier because he's found his way up the standings a bit more, but again, how many times do we keep on referring to Jack Miller?
Yeah, Jack, and I'm really excited about Jack this year. I really think we see that he is, what's the word? He's making a real big effort to be more professional, like that last piece of the puzzle to get him all the way, and he's got a bike that he's happy with, which is obviously a huge part of it. I think altogether we're going to see more of him, and I hope Petrucci can continue to have that form that we saw him, in Assen last year and a couple other times. Amazing. And he's the new lighter version. Let's hope it helps.
It certainly looks that way, and I love the comment that he made to Matt Burt about the turn 12 as well here at Buriram, saying it's going to be like a circus.
Yeah, well, imagine in Moto3, it's going to be terrifying.
Here is Danilo Petrucci, then number 9. Of course, he got himself on the podium a few times last year, and he's looking to do the same again this year, because we do know that he's going to be looking for a ride in 2019. So let's get the Italians' thoughts then on day 1 here in Buriram.
So Danilo, your first chance this morning to assess the Chang International Circuit here in Buriram. What have been your first impressions?
It's a very good track. We found the track this morning with a lot of grip, a lot of traction. So it's good because we was able to work with the tire and not to destroy it like usually in the new circuit. But the track is already in good condition, and I think we are going quite well. For sure, Marquez and Dovizioso are making the difference like last year. But anyway, we are quite close. We are fighting the MotoGP of the last 2 years. We saw a lot of riders in 1 second or in half a second. So even 10th is very important. And here with few corners, it's very important to do all the corners in the perfect way. And we'll see in the afternoon tomorrow what will be our work. We didn't touch a lot on the bike. Is still good.
On paper, a lot of people thought coming here that this would be a track that would really suit the Ducati. Is that the case?
I hope so. We imagine a track with a lot of braking area. Yes, there are there are 2 or 3 maybe hard braking, but the other corners are very fast, very flowing. So it's important to have a bike that with a lot of load on the front. And this is good for us. We have to try a lot of things in the afternoon and tomorrow during this day. But at the moment, the bike we start and is okay.
Matt asked a good question there, Simon, to Danilo about this being potentially on paper a Ducati circuit. Everyone was talking about that when we found out Thailand would be on the calendar. And the very thing we mentioned earlier, the similarities to Spielberg, we know how strong Ducati are there. They're almost a tick in the box for a race win. It looks like it could be similar here.
I felt exactly the same as Matt. The Ducati's known for the speed. You know, the engine speed is... it's a strong point. It's good on the brakes, apparently. I haven't ridden it. And the last piece of the puzzle, I think, like he said, is turning well through that. But it's tyre life. You could even see in the video there how it was really working the rear tyre. He might have been out there for a while, but no one's done more than 10 laps. They're trying to find the right tyres. In that heat, that's the last piece of the puzzle.
Well, let's move next door now and get the thoughts and views then on day 1 from his Australian teammate, Jack Miller.
So, Jack, your first chance to assess the Chang International Circuit here in Buriram. Looks like it's been a positive start. What have been your first impressions of this new track?
Yeah, not too bad. Adapted to it pretty quickly. Did the lap time that we did this morning with 21 laps on the soft, so pretty happy with my pace on used tyres. And the circuit itself is very fast. Yeah.
Is there any other track on the calendar which you can kind of compare it to?
A little bit like Austria, just minus the big elevation changes there. Here's quite flat, but quite a similar layout if you think of it.
Yeah. And a lot of people on paper coming here to Thailand, Jack, felt like this would be a circuit that would suit Ducati, bearing in mind how strong they've been at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Is that something that you found instantly here?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's we haven't quite. I think here, to do the best lap time, you have to be very, very patient. You got to give up a little or sacrifice a little bit on the braking in order to get that acceleration, especially with the Ducati. And I think that's something I'm just trying to wrap my head around at the moment. Be patient isn't one of my strong points, so just trying to work on that at the moment.
Exciting year ahead there for Jack Miller. Now, from one Italian manufacturer to another, we move on to Aprilia. Now, Aprilia know what they're dealing with when it comes to Aleix Espargaro, but there was big question marks after the Sepang test about what we're to expect from Scott Redding. Struggling over the 3 days, I think it's fair to say, in Malaysia, but an encouraging start to today, Simon. It looks as though Scott is right on the tail of Aleix here in Thailand.
We all hope that he can, you know, for him, and to have that other manufacturer up there fighting. It's good for the sport. But yeah, fingers crossed for him that he can get comfy with his new bike and do the job.
It's so difficult, isn't it, to really know what is a good result at the moment for Aprilia and pretty much every team. When you actually look on paper at the riders and the teams and the manufacturers that are there, you've got 10 or so riders who could arguably win a race this year. And yet, if you were to say to Aleix Espargaro tomorrow, well, you'll be finishing 11th in race 1, he would not have any of it.
Yeah, but it's very hard for them in the moment. You know, both Aleix and Scott have it's a slightly less competitive bike, you know, and to beat those top 8-10 guys on a better bike, they're so good, those top 8-10 guys. Well, they're all good, but all I'm saying is it's a uphill battle, you know, to try and beat them. And as Matt said, Scott broke an engine this morning, missed some practice, you know, had some problem with brakes. His first day, it sounds like he's lost at least half of it, and let's hope he has a better second day.
And this is Aleix Espargaro now. We just saw Scott Redding there, the number 41, having a good go around. Aleix, of course, the vast majority of the 2017 campaign saw plenty of bad luck, but some decent top 10 finishes as well. He'll certainly believe that he can nibble away. I mean, these guys, they can't expect to be beating. As you just mentioned, they are a little bit behind other factory teams. They will want to be getting the edge over the other satellite teams, though, won't they?
Yeah, but to be fair, the other satellite teams, you're talking Yamaha, you know, Tech3,
yeah.
They're a factory bike that are in a satellite team, and same with the Ducati, you know, the Aventia. It's a last year's factory bike or the year before in a private team. These guys are doing it all by themselves, you know. Aprilia, that little manufacturer, are fighting to be with these big boys, and it's impressive.
So we look here then at that run from Aleix Espargaro. We'll get some more reaction from a rider or two in a moment. We're going to get some good comparison shots in a moment from a few areas around this Chang International Circuit. So we'll be able to have a look exactly how they're getting on. Of course, we've already mentioned the hot spots on this Chang International Circuit in terms of overtaking and the crucial areas. Here we see Marc Marquez. This looks like the left kink just before braking hard down into turn number 3. This was the hairpin that you were saying is going to be really, really critical, not just front end, but getting the power on the exit, as always.
I think all the way around the track, you know, it's so hard braking. Jack put it into words, really. You get sucked into braking really hard because you want to go faster, but by going in that fraction too hard, you lose on the exit and lose more than you've just won. So, and guys like Jack that have come from smaller bikes, and yeah, they're young and more impatient, you know, those two things, because the smaller bike style isn't, you know, you have to go in hard. Where these, you can sacrifice a little bit on the entry to make all the way down that next straight, get the exit perfect.
Yeah, as Matt mentioned already, it's so easy to make a tiny mistake and lose so much time. If you lose it at turn 1, well, hey, you've got to wait 4.6 kilometres until you can have another go. We're seeing here Johan Zarco heading into turn number 3 now. We just saw birthday boy Valentino Rossi. So, well, we've seen a bit from the riders. Sorry, Simon.
No, not at all. You also, see how hard they're braking. They're on bikes that are not quite set up yet, on tyres they don't really know what they're going to do, how long they're going to last. It'll be easy to go 2 laps too long, it's torn and you crash, you know. So it's a real difficult to go to any new track. Like I said, especially in this heat with these hard braking areas, it's tough. The first day will be really hard.
Jorge Lorenzo here, of course, fastest in Sepang, using those aero designs that he used back in Malaysia as well. Well, we've seen quite a few bits here of riding style comparison, and we've heard from a couple of riders. Of course, coming into this season, there's so much pressure being put on the factory team bosses for this year. So as we come into to the next test here in Thailand, let's catch some reaction from factory bosses to see what their plans are for the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, there was not time to test all the things, especially when Paul was not anymore on the bike on the second day. So we lost a little time there, but yeah, we try to pick it up here. So let's go in this test and put the most we can do in these 3 days.
To get enough data for preparing the race for the new track, confirmation of the comparison between the 17 and 18 bike. We have one for each rider, and we have a very dense program of tests. We have maybe too many things to test anyway, a lot of work, and the weather should be okay for the 3 days, so we expect to do a lot of work and to improve the bike. We are quite satisfied anyway about the new bike.
We have to continue our job. We are still selecting and testing a different engine configuration and a different chassis configuration. Of course, things are coming more and more clear, but it's always good to keep an eye and to continue compare until the first race. When, of course, in Qatar, when we will be there for the race weekend, we have to put together the best package. But it's very important to do the right step by step. So we continue the job, carry on the job that we started in Sepang, and try to get more and more better information. We will start with some chassis setting, which we think it will be very close to what we're going to use at the first race. And then we have in Sepang, we spend time comparing one chassis with the other. It's not really a different chassis, but let's say a little bit different each other, not one evolution of the other. So we spend time comparing. Here we have to spend more time on adjusting.
Well, first of all, they have to get used to this track. It's first time for them, and we have to see how everything works. You know, it's a different area, different condition. It will not be easy because it's going to be quite, I think, really hot. So this is point one. Then, of course, continue with the development. We started in Valencia last winter, and that we were already checking in Malaysia, and keep going till the last test in Qatar. This is basically the story. There's no more story.
Different track, very particular track. So also the result of this test for me is not realistic for the whole season. But anyway, it's a test where we have to make a race, so it's important to test here and to check if the bike is okay. We have a lot of material to test, above all the fairing. The new fairing is coming here, so it's important to evaluate it, and so it's important for the future of the season.
The program for sure is quite intense, but more or less we are going to test the same material we tested in Sepang, because it's always important to evaluate the same material into different tracks. We had two really good first day tests, and then we didn't expect to suffer that problem on the third day. Overall, okay, we suffer more in the fastest lap, because the pace was not so bad, but the technicians are really still understanding what's the reason that create this problem. We will see here, because as you said, the temperature is going to be very hot, hotter than in Sepang. Maybe the humidity is going to be different because it's more dry. But if we, I hope that we won't have that problem anymore. But if it is the case, it's better to have here. Then we will have more time to study.
Well, it's an excellent point there that you just hear from Maio Marigali, particularly when it comes to Vinales, who this time last year was riding on cloud number 9. He was fastest in every test, and things got off to a great start. It is better for the stuff to happen here in testing before we get starting the season, but at the same time, there was a lot of discussion going on, head against the wall sort of stuff for Maverick Vinales at the end of Sepang. A lot of the journalists around were particularly focusing on how upset Maverick was. So even though this is a new circuit to learn, he's not going to want to encounter the same problems by the end of the 3 days here in Thailand.
He's upset because he wants to be at the front, you know, and We know he can be. I believe he will be. It's just getting him happy. It's much like Lorenzo, you know. The thing is, I don't think that, you know, they weren't the top of the sheets, which is disappointing for any rider team, but I still think they're like Marigali spoke about then. He said they're not too bad, meaning race pace is okay. Yes, they lacked on the fastest time, and it's a little bit the opposite of Lorenzo at the last test, you know. Was the race pace okay? The fastest lap was. You know?
One thing we can see there from the footage we just saw of him having a chat there to crew chief Ramon Focada is the fact that he does wear his heart on his sleeve at all times. Yeah. You can tell when he's upset. He's clearly not happy there. Even at the Chang International Circuit, you know, you can tell when things are going well. The interviews that we conducted with Maverick at the start of 2017, I've never seen anyone so happy. He had a grin from ear to ear. Yeah. He's, I wouldn't say throwing his dummies out of the pram at this moment in time. It's not panic stations, but like you say, things are not quite right at the moment.
Yeah, and like I said at the last test, these tough times like Maverick had last year, I think form the good rider, the best rider. You know, you have to go through those tough ones, figure out how to get out of them, work with the engineers, yourself, how can you improve you to get around these problems. And in the end, I mean, he's an amazing rider. I think in the end he's going to be better, you know, when he comes through this rough patch. And I can't wait to see what he can do when he's on the other side, you know.
Well, another rider who impressed last year in winter testing before the start of the season, much like Maverick Vinales, was Angel Nieto team rider Alvaro Bautista. He got off to the season with a bang on the Ducati when we were testing last year. He wasn't quite so happy at the start this season over in Sepang, but let's see what he makes of this new Chang International Circuit.
Alvaro, first day here in Thailand. Which are the first impressions with the new track, and do you like it?
Yeah, I like it. It's not easy track, no? I thought it is easier, but over the paper, no? But when you ride a MotoGP bike, it's more complicated, no? Everything coming more narrow and more difficult, no? Especially the last two sectors are especially very critical because you have to choose the right line. Otherwise you lose a lot, no? So you have to have very clear the reference, no? It's not easy because you have some blind points and you have to have very, very clear the reference. So it's not easy track, but I enjoyed the first laps.
Which are the corners that you enjoy the most? Which are the fast ones? Which are the ones that you like more?
Well, one of my favorite corner is the turn 4 because you arrive from the speed, high speed, straight, and you have to take out two gears and then go in very fast. No, it's one of my favorite corner in this track.
With these 3 main straights, the long straights here in this circuit, do you think that is a circuit that will suit the Ducati?
No, I don't believe that now you have a circuit for Ducati or for Honda or for Yamaha, no? Especially because we saw that Honda improved a lot the top speed. So right now it's more important the work you do with the bike and the tires than if it's the track for Ducati or other manufacturer.
And this morning you were working with the new bike and the old bike. Which was your program during this day?
No, today just because we received the second bike here, and just we check up the bike and everything was good. So we start to work with the same bike as we did in Sepang. And at the moment we didn't make a big change in the bike, no, just some adjustment for this track and also in the gearbox, electronics. So it's more or less to find a good base for this racetrack.
And last one, Alvaro, here like in Sepang it's quite hot, the weather conditions are quite extreme, so which things the riders do you do to face this condition? I mean, do you drink more water as usual? Do you have, I don't know, a bigger camel bag? Which are the tricks to avoid these extreme conditions?
Yeah, first of all, we stop in the hour that we have more hot, but yeah, serious. I think we prepare like in Sepang, no? Here maybe it's hotter than Sepang, but it's less humidity, so
you can breathe better in when you are riding the bike, no? So you feel less tired from riding the bike. So I just make like normal preparation for the hot condition.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks to Jama there interviewing Alvaro Bautista. Now, bear in mind, we are live, so on the ground in Thailand at the moment. Jama and Matt are doing their very best to elbow out as many journalists as possible to get the interviews. So just as soon as we get some interviews from factory riders, we hope to bring you them here in this After the Flag show. They're not; these riders might be quick, but I tell you what, Simon, they're not punctual.
No. Going back to Alvaro, he had a little bit of a tough test at the last one, but I wasn't worried for him, because if you look at it, he'd missed the last test. He'd gone and got married, good on him, and had a bit of a holiday, honeymoon, and then he'd turned up to Sepang with one bike, not two, so he got through less testing, and now he's arrived, he's got his second bike. I think he's a really experienced guy. He's going to be there. He'll be right.
The last 15 minutes, we said, of the actual test was dedicated to practice starts. So we're going to get some various footage here of the practice starts taking place. There'll be a lot of people, Simon, who would be thinking to themselves, well, surely the extra 15 minutes could be used by putting in fast laps. But how crucial are these practice starts for the riders, just to get used to the new bikes, and particularly for the rookies?
I'm not sure why they've done this, but I can imagine because they're for some reason they haven't found a safe place to do it during the session. But you're going to take advantage of this, because we all know how important the start is.
I suppose also you can see here riders in particular doing practice starts from grid positions, so it gives them a good idea as to sort of the rough corner speed they need to be travelling into turn one, which can be hectic.
That's a really good point. They can right now figure out the break point for turn one. Maybe they're worried about that. I honestly don't know why they've done this. I haven't seen it before, but you're totally right. They're going to figure out a break point for the race, less chance of running into someone in the back of someone when it is race time.
Okay, well, we're looking at all of the practice starts there. We just saw Suzuki. Here comes Aleix Espargaro on his Aprilia as well. Well, we said that we would bring you some interviews when we got them. We were just talking about Maverick Vinales. Let's see how he's feeling at the end of day one.
An incredibly close opening day of MotoGP action here in Thailand. Less than 1 second covering the top 20. Just missing out on the top 10 was Maverick Vinales. We can hear his thoughts on the opening day now. Maverick.
Well, especially we've been struggling a lot with the bike all day long, and also in Malaysia. Somehow we didn't find a way. Anyway, we are trying to work hard and found out the best solution.
What's been the main issues? Is a lack of rear grip again the main problem, Maverick?
Well, I didn't feel comfortable on the bike, so we have to continue working.
And today was your first opportunity, obviously, to assess this new track in Buriram. What have been your first impressions?
Yeah, I like a lot. It's a track I like a lot. I think it fits quite well for my riding style, these flow corners. But as I said, I didn't feel comfortable on the bike, so I cannot push. But anyway, I think for the first day we have to be relaxed, trying to work, and found out for tomorrow.
Okay, well, he doesn't look too upset, Simon.
Oh, I read it the opposite way.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
Reading between the lines.
I'm rubbish at poker, so...
I think reading between the lines, he was like, go away, mate. I'm not in a good mood. That's read it how you think. But, he was pretty straight up and said that he's not happy on the bike, and we know how good he is when he's happy. So let's hope they find it before Qatar.
Not only the only Spanish rider, of course, to win races last year, along with Marc Marquez. We're hoping Jorge Lorenzo can do the same. But we've got to talk now about Marc Marquez's teammate, Dani Pedrosa. Fast becoming, I would say, probably the most famous rider and the best rider to have not won a MotoGP World Crown. Some would say he's running out of time. Others would say, well, look at Valentino, and he's got plenty of years left in him.
That sounds like Randy Moller of current days.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Randy.
We're looking at him here. He's 5th overall in today's standings. We mentioned it in Sepang. Look, when everything's clicking together, Dani Pedrosa is the real deal, and he is more than a handful to anyone.
He's a wonderful rider. I don't know another word. He's absolutely fantastic. It's just getting him to do it at every race the whole season, and for whatever reason it hasn't happened, But we all know on his day no one can stay with him, you know. He's like, not even Lorenzo or, you know what I'm saying? Not, all the boys, Marquez, he'll beat everyone when he's having a good day.
There's
Fantastic.
something about him, his charisma and his personality as well off the circuit, which is so endearing.
Yeah.
There are not many people that you will find that love, or no, so a lot of people love him, that dislike him. You know, Rossi, Marquez, they have their people that love him, they have people that hate him. Danny just seems right in the middle. He's very diplomatic, he's very calm. Fans just cannot dislike Danny Pedrosa.
Well, I mean, I've heard him being accused by fans of being boring or, you know, not. But like I said, riders don't come across to the camera really like they are in real life, you know. Very few are the same. And Danny's really nice to meet in real life. Like, yeah, and he rides amazing. I'm a fan.
Well, I don't think there's many that aren't a fan of Danny Pedrosa. I'm a fan too. But of course, he does have an uphill struggle, as always, when he is racing against his teammate and world champion, Marc Marquez. Well, I'm delighted to say that Matt has got his elbows out and he is first to go and have a word with the world champion.
Well, I think before we arrived in Buriram, everybody was expecting this to be a track that favoured Ducati, but not so on the first day. Cal Crutchlow quickest, and this man, the reigning world champion, Marc Marquez, third fastest. Marc, you must be really happy with how quickly the Hondas proved to be competitive here in Thailand.
Yeah, of course, I'm quite happy how we started the Buriram test here in Thailand. I felt quite good from the beginning. Was a good feeling. So yeah, we just try to know the track well. Then when I get the rhythm, we start to try different things on the bike. Especially today, we concentrate a little bit more on the electronic side. But yeah, it looks like Dobby was very fast, very competitive all the day. Yeah, on the last part of the day, many riders were there in front, but. We need to wait until last day, how is the rhythm of everybody, because everybody will improve a lot tomorrow, I think so. But on my part, I'm happy because I felt comfortable with the bike.
Yesterday you tried the track on a scooter. Of course, it's going to be a completely different experience on a MotoGP bike. What have been your first impressions, and what do you most like about this Buriram track?
Yeah, you know, yesterday with the scooter, I felt like, okay, it's a fast track, but today on the MotoGP, I realized that it was slower than what I expect. I mean, many second gear corners, even third gear corners, but even like these hard accelerations, hard break points. But anyway, difficult to manage the tire life, because it's where we are working more, because it looks like have many corners that we are loading a lot.
He really is a phenomenon, isn't he, Marc Marquez, Simon? I read some interesting comments, I'm not sure if it was they're official or not, about Casey Stoner mentioning that he didn't think that necessarily the standard of riding had changed a lot since he's left. He hasn't raced this guy, though. I mean, it was the showdown that I think we all wanted, Stoner versus Marquez. Put Stoner aside, though, and concentrating on Marc Marquez, we said in Sepang, he is still the man to beat and will be all year.
He's amazing, isn't he? We all know. There's not much I can say that you and all the fans don't already know. You know?
He's rewritten the rule book, though, hasn't he, in terms of how to ride a bike?
Well, the thing I love is that he pushes so hard every lap, you know, and there is guys like, I mean, I also like that about Aleix, you know, but Marc, the things he does to push the limit, to get to get the feedback, to find the information, just incredible. He was I like that he's quite honest in the interviews, you know. That last one we saw, talking about how important the different things are. He knows everyone will improve the next days. He also knows tyre life is so important here because the heat, and how he said about, I had the same experience so many times where you think, oh, this track is, you know, quite fast, but you get on one of these things that eats up those straights so quickly, the track feels very small.
The great thing as well, I mean, we've seen so many documentaries since Marc Marquez has become a multi-world champion. You're starting to get to know Marc a bit more as well. The honesty's coming out, his interviews, you're getting to see more of that character.
I think, I'll be honest, I wasn't such a fan in the beginning because like a lot, it was is that smile real? But more I see him, more I know how passionate he is about riding, winning, the more I'm becoming a fan. I really am. He's amazing. And I think you really do get to see him on TV, how he is, you know, watching him off the bike. I think he really is like that.
Well, we can't finish after the flag, of course, without talking to the fastest person of the day. And, that belongs to Cal Crutchlow. Matt is with him now.
Well, It's been a fantastic start to MotoGP testing this week in Thailand for LTR Honda's Cal Crutchlow. A great start to this test for Honda with reigning world champion Marc Marquez third. But the spoils go to this man, Cal Crutchlow, fastest on day one. Cal, you seem to have fallen in love straight away with the Buriram circuit.
Is this live, Matt? No. Yeah, no, I had a not too bad day, considering we've never been to the circuit before. A lot of guys haven't also. I think only a couple of guys have. But yeah, obviously we've continued to ride well from Malaysia. I felt good in Malaysia, as I said. And the HRC engineers over the winter have done a good job, and I feel that last year we were lacking something. Now we have it, but we still have our similar problems with the bike, with the way it handles. But we have a little not trick up our sleeve, but something that's really helping us more this year to be a bit more competitive. Yeah, I'm pleased with the way the team's been working so far. I didn't have a great day in the morning. I was not very concentrated at all. I never suffer with jet lag, and last night I really suffered. I went to bed at 5 a.m. and woke up at 7:30. So I didn't feel very well to start with because I was not physically tired at all. I just felt that I wanted to sleep. So yeah, I got here in enough time, the same as all the other riders. I just really struggled to sleep last night. And yeah, maybe it should happen in a race weekend. I can go a bit faster on the race day.
The only real block today, Cal, was a small tip off at turn 12. You could barely see any damage on the bike, to be fair. What do you actually like about this circuit? I mean, the first time you've ever ridden here, but you've obviously clicked with it straight away. What are its good points that seem to suit the Honda and your riding style?
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. It doesn't really suit my riding style. It's just, I feel at the moment, obviously it's very early days in the testing, but I feel I've made a step riding-wise, and Honda have definitely made a step with the bike, and the team are working in a good way. So I think them three things, the combination at the moment is working. We've worked well every day of the test so far. I crashed this morning, on the 5th lap of the day or something. But I believe it's because I also wasn't concentrated so well. I'd only just woken up by then. And I was already under the time, the fastest time of the day. So on that lap, there is some bumps in the last corner, and it caused some chatter with the bike, and I went down. I think about 5 laps later, another 4 guys went down. Over the continuous of the run. I think really tricky corner, but this is why we're here to test.
That first sector is all about acceleration and top speed, 2 areas that we know Honda worked on a lot with the engine this year. Is that where you feel that they've clearly made a step? You've talked about your own riding improvement, but from Honda's point of view, is that where you feel that the big step has come?
Yeah, they've definitely improved the engine of our bike. The acceleration, I don't really know. We have to look at Malaysia and compare data a lot more. But them sort of corners like turn 1 and the last corner really don't suit my style. So to be quite strong in sector 1, or on average not too bad. Maybe I've adapted my style a little bit to help that as well. You have to be a little bit more patient probably, and we're pleased with the Honda engine at the moment, but we need to continue to work on the rest of the bike.
Thanks there to Matt Burt with Cal Crutchlow. I tell you what, I get some stick at home for people say that jet lag doesn't exist. I am delighted to hear that a top professional rider actually tells me that jet lag does exist, because it's a struggle for everyone. It's not just for the journalists, for the team members, but the riders as well. You just heard it there from Cal.
Yeah, it is. The thing, it makes the day hard, but I had the same experience as Cal. You can actually get through the day all right, You just got to, the same as anyone going to work, You have no sleep. It's pretty hard, but you can get the job done. Cal might have been a little bit more grumpier than normal, but yeah, he often is in front of the camera. But again, pleasure to meet, isn't he? It's like, so, yeah. it's a normal day at work, you know. He didn't get much sleep. He'll sleep tonight.
I don't know if it's got, but this is just Cal. I think when he works with Matt, those two have a close bond off circuit. Don't you worry about that. He's just giving Matt a little bit of jip. Well, speaking of Matt, he's got a Honda hat trick. So let's hear now from the other Honda rider, Danny Pedrosa.
Well, it's been a great start to this Thailand test for Honda with Cal Crutchlow fastest on the timesheets. 3 Hondas actually inside the top 5, including this man, Danny Pedrosa, who was 5th fastest on the timesheets today. Danny, a real positive start to this Thailand test for Honda. You must be pretty satisfied the way it started.
Yes, of course. Always the first day in a track is not easy, and you need to learn a lot of things. But we did, I think, a good job. At the middle of the day, we were a little bit not understanding what we need, but at the end of the day, we find more the way. So we are positive. Now we will try to analyze all the data. We try the tires. We will try more tires tomorrow, and the grip of the track is quite good. The heat is super. I mean, one of the worst I ever test. And the track itself is quite narrow, and so the lines are. We are working to find the setting, to understanding more about the track, and getting more in the rhythm.
You did a few laps yesterday on the scooter. You knew today was going to be a completely different story riding on a MotoGP bike. But from the first day, Danny, what's the secret to a good lap around this Buriram circuit?
I think, well, one of the secrets is to try to do as many laps as possible, because every time you will find a better feeling, and the track sure is getting better with the laps. Also, so one of the key is a little bit the speed, you know. So the first section, second section is quite fast, and there you need a good speed.
Yeah, and it seems this year with Honda working particularly on the engine to improve top speed, that's going to help you a lot at this track.
Well, of course, we are working there, and it's one of the keys for this winter testing, and looks like we are improving a little bit in that part. But then we have the more twisted corners, and there is also we must find a good average. So we are going to work more for tomorrow.
And just finally, Danny, a small crash at the final corner. Very easy, it looks like, to make a mistake there. You're coming from high speed to a first gear corner, quite bumpy on the entry as well, I think.
Yes, I crashed early. I touched the bump, and then I lose the wheel. But you know, it's new track, so we must learn about the track, and that's it.
Yeah, many thanks as always, Danny. Appreciate your time.
And well done to Matt Burt for getting all 3 Honda riders there. We mentioned already Alex Rins was 2nd overall here on day 1 in Buriram. We'll hear from him in just a moment. But I want to move next door to Alex Rins and Andrea Iannone. The curious case of Andrea Iannone, a man who looked like he was absent most of last year until the final 3 rounds. We mentioned in Sepang that he's under pressure, with Alex Rins now finding the strength. What has Andrea Iannone got to do mentally more than anything else to get himself prepared for this season? Because we know that deep down he's got that talent.
He's really talented. If I knew the answer, I'd be richer than I am. What it needs for him to figure it out. But obviously, David, the whole team will be trying to help him figure it out. But talking to some people behind the scene, they're saying he's an absolute talent, like natural ability. It's just trying to keep him happy. It sounds, I mean, you know, it's only a likeness, but it's kind of like the Lorenzo situation, you know. If you can make him happy, he'll do something special, you know, on the bike, you know.
I've heard also that there's been a little bit of trouble in communication of getting the feedback from him. So whilst he's got the natural ability, sometimes he struggles to put that information across to his crew chief.
Yeah, and it's so important. That's why I was saying if I was Suzuki, I would have someone that is more experienced, like a Dovi, you know. I mean, I know there's not many Dovis, but how we used to look at Dovi, he wasn't quite winning, but he was an amazing developer, and I think that's what Suzuki need to, you know. And they are putting big effort in. Guintoli going to all the tests, testing all the parts and filtering, because that's their test guy that they need to filter through. And I think they're really trying. They're making a big effort to support their 2 young talents.
Well, speaking of the other young talent, Alex Rins then was 2nd, and I'm pleased to say that Matt's grabbed a word with him over in Thailand.
Well, what a start it's been to 2018 for this young man, Alex Rins, on the factory Suzuki. A great performance 2 weeks ago in Malaysia, and he's carried on that momentum today here in Thailand. Second on the timesheets here in Buriram. Alex, it looks like straight away you found a very good feeling with the Buriram circuit. Can you tell us a little bit about your first impressions of this new track?
Yeah, for sure. This is a new track for everybody, no? And from the beginning, I understand really well the track. I enjoy it today here riding in Chang circuit, and nothing more. We don't try many things today. We just keep focus a little bit on the setup on the bike, and nothing more. I think that we do a good test. Tomorrow we have a lot of things to try, also new fairing and settings on the suspensions, and I hope to continue this level.
It's quite a short lap, 1 minute 30. It looks like we'll probably see some 129s when you guys really get into the groove this week. What do you think is the key to a fast lap time around this track?
Well, I think the key, one fast lap time, we can do every rider, no? But I think the key is the consistent, not trying to be consistent, trying to go to have a good rhythm, no?
And what do you think this circuit likes for your riding style, or what does it seem to suit the Suzuki?
Well, I think this track, this layout adapts really well to the Suzuki. As you can see, we did a really big step compared last year, and I think that this year our bike will be competitive.
Many thanks, Alex. Good start to the week.
A dark horse, I think it's fair to say, Simon, and the odds will continue to shorten on him in terms of getting a podium as this continues.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't get one this year. If Suzuki can do what, give him the support and the machinery, I reckon he'll do it. One of the races he'll be standing on the box.
We just spoke earlier on in the show to two of the Ducati satellite riders, of course, Danilo Petrucci and Jack Miller, but another rider who impressed today, in 13th overall in the standings, who had a really tough year at the office last season, has moved from Honda to Ducati. We talked about him in Sepang. Tito Rabat, 13th quickest. He's only 6/10 off fastest Ducati Andrea Dovizioso today.
Tito, first day here in Thailand. Which are your first impressions of this layout, and do you like it?
Yes, I like a lot. The track is very entertainment, you know, and it's many things, long straights, hard breaks. The asphalt is quite good. At the beginning it's a little bit dirty, but now step by step coming clean. And to be honest, I enjoy a lot. I can do some good laps in the end of the session alone. Then quite happy. And I have one small crash in the middle of the practice. Then we decide to work on solving this problem, because I don't know how. In Malaysia we crashed 2 times, 3 times from the front, same reason. Here again, Thursday 1 time, and we say, okay, let's start to focus on this problem, and then let's start to work again. And then we solved a lot of the problem. I'm happy for that, because it means that less crashes, finish more races, and now keep going.
With 3 big straights, long straights, maybe it's the circuit that can suit the Ducati. Which are the most interesting parts for you, and which are the most difficult parts from this circuit?
For me, this circuit have the part I like more, maybe the last part, no? The last part is quite nice. Also the long straight, hard break. But maybe the part more difficult, for me, minimum, is the part that I crash. No, is maybe, I don't remember now, turn 7. This is the 6, 7 is quite difficult, but anyway, it's a good track for make good races. You can overtake many riders, they can overtake you. Sure, if when we will race here, will be a big show for the people.
And for tomorrow, do you have any specific program you want to focus on the 17 bike? Which is your plan for tomorrow?
The plan for tomorrow,
we save a lot of tires. We work with the tires that don't like for today, for know the track, everything. Put the tires that I like, make less laps, but with more effective laps. And no, nothing, just work, keep improving the lap times, keep knowing better the Ducati, the team, and keep going.
Thank you, Tito.
Thank you.
Deixes fer-te una més en anglès per un vídeo que estem fent.
Thanks there then, Tito, Rabat, talking there to Jaume. It looks as though, Simon, the Ducati is far more forgiving than the Honda was, and riders that jump on it are finding life a lot easier, and that's certainly the case for Jack Miller, we spoke about already. And Tito's making big steps forward. We shouldn't forget he's, a Moto2 world champion. He knows what he's doing on a motorcycle.
Yeah. What you said about the difference between Honda and Ducati, I haven't ridden one, but you can see that the boys on the satellite Honda, it's a tough time, isn't it? It's hard, And when they get on the Ducati that is in the satellite teams, it seems like it's a little closer to the real thing, and the guys get closer result-wise. Going to Tito, he is world champion Moto2, and like Zarco, he's a really talented guy. I think more than talent, he's a worker. I've seen him at Almeria going round and around and around like every day. He's one of those guys, I'll be straight up, more like me, that had less natural ability than the top boys, but just keep working, and I hope he shows this year, because he had a horrible couple of years, didn't he, on the Honda. I hope he has a great time on the Duke.
Certainly looks that way, and we're seeing the likes of his teammate Xavier Simeon, of course, move up from Moto2. In fact, all of the rookies this year in 2018 have stepped up from Moto2. So let's stick them all together and pile them into a load of interviews for you. This is what the rookies make of day one in Thailand.
Well, Xavier, first of all, I think you had a crash this afternoon. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay. I suffered a small crash from my side, but in that corner there is a lot of ground after, but there is the gravel and there is a small step, and when the bike touches the step, make some laps and make a little bit of damage. But the crashing was not so big. But anyway, because of that, we lose all the afternoon. I couldn't ride the afternoon, so I could only make 5 laps at the end to check everything for tomorrow. But anyway, without that crash, I was quite happy with the day, because I think we were doing quite a good job. We were in a good pace, even when the track was quite hot. So it's a little bit a pity that we missed the afternoon, but anyway, we still have 2 days of testing, and I think we're on the good way.
Well, Tom, first day in Thailand, which was the first impression of this new circuit?
Yeah, it's good. It's more tricky than it looks, for sure. It's not that easy, that circuit, especially with the MotoGP. It's even more difficult, everything. But overall, I could improve all over the day. For me, it was a little bit the feeling like I jumped on the bike this morning. The track was completely new, and the bike still feels new to me. It's not something which, after the 3 days in Sepang, I know everything. So it was a couple of things which was like many impressions, But overall, it's quite a positive first day.
Well, Franco, first day here in Thailand. Which is the first impression of this circuit?
I like the circuit. It's really nice. It's always nice to ride with a MotoGP anywhere. So it's nice to ride here. And the first day went pretty well also. The lap time was decent. We went improving throughout all day, and finally we finished below 1 second, which is not bad. Still, I have to learn how to ride it, and we have to learn how to set up the bike according to my style a little bit, and I have to adapt to the bike a little bit more, but not so bad.
As you say, 9/10 of the fastest lap. I think it's 20 riders below 1 second difference, so it's quite tight, MotoGP. So how do you see this kind of competition? Because for a rookie, it's 9/10 is nothing, but it's getting tight and very competitive.
Yes, the category is very competitive. You're 9/10 off, and you're 19th, so if you look at the position, you get a bit frustrated, but if you look at the gap, it's not so bad. I think that the thing that is gonna make the difference is the pace. So we gotta work on that, and we gotta be good on that. And apart from this thing, I knew that MotoGP was gonna be hard. I mean.
And also, which are the parts that are more funny to ride in this circuit, and which are the parts that is more difficult to ride? How you'll describe the whole layout?
Well, the third corner 3, I like it a lot. It's a really long braking, and it's a really wide corner, so I like it. I struggle a bit in changing direction, so maybe 6, 7 and 11, 10, 11. But at the end, it's a good circuit.
Thank you, Franco.
Thank you.
Well, Hafid, finally you made your MotoGP debut. So, which are your first impressions with the MotoGP bike?
Yes, first thing is an amazing bike. It's faster, nothing can compare with the Moto2, and is above than 300 per hour. Every time I go, it's like a jet, you know, in the straight. And I feel very good with the bike, and also with the teamwork today. They are very consistent, and they always keep calm, and they understand me because I'm first time here, so not bad. I'm always improve every session I go out, and for the first day and the first time, what I'm looking is very positive on my side. I'm not very far from the front, you know. I thought I cannot do, maybe I lose 2 seconds from my front, but with Luthi I'm not so far, and yeah, but I cannot keep this as a confidence, but I try to always step by step and close to the front rider.
As you say, Hafid, the engine power delivery is quite huge compared to Moto2, but also in terms of electronics, in terms of tires, which are the main difference in these aspects with the bike?
Yes, to compare with Dunlop and Michelin is a lot of different, and we have traction control, we have a launch control for the start of the bike, and we use a carbon brake. So for me, it's helped me a lot on the exit, because when I open the gas, the bike is like calm, no make any nervous. Just when exit is like wheelie is normal for MotoGP, and this I'm very looking forward to understand about this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pescao, he's known as the fish, and you could be forgiven for saying that he might feel like a fish out of water today. New bike, new circuit, not been here before, but I don't think that's a bad job, Simon. 2.3 off overall and 0.4 off the next best rookie.
I feel sorry for him, you know. Not because of the opportunity, that's wonderful, but to have everyone watching when you first put your leg over one of those bikes, you know, it's, at least I got to ride when no one, only my team was there, you know, we got to settle in, but to have the cameras there, all the teams, and he's learning everything's so different, you know, they're rockets compared to what he got off, and everything from brakes to electronics to, he's learning the whole lot.
And just going back on something Franco Morbidelli just mentioned there, I mean, he's a rider that's obviously come from Moto2 as the world champion. He's used to coming in, seeing P1 on his pit board. What is it like to see plus 0.09 on your pit board, come into the garages and they go, Franco, you're 19th?
You know, again, it's a tough one, you know, and he's saying I knew MotoGP would be hard, but the thing he's got to do is get through this year as best he can, so we and all the team managers can see he's doing a really good job on the second-rate bike, because and it's so hard mentally if you're young and hungry. It's really, really hard because you just want to be at top of that screen, you know, not on the second screen. You're not even there.
Well, let's close the book on the rookies for now. We'll come back to those guys hopefully tomorrow and, of course, on Sunday as well. We're going to have a little look now at some more footage. We did see some earlier, but we'll talk a bit more in detail about the new Ducati fairings, if I can put my teeth back in, because we're going to get some decent shots of them. Of course, they've got 3 different aero packages with them here in Thailand here this weekend. Of course, we're just as soon as we hear from the Ducati riders, we will, of course, bring you the information, but they are normally last to do the interviews, and so it is proving again today. Here is Jorge heading out on the Ducati with the aero package that looks like he was running over in Sepang. We'll get various shots here of these guys heading out. Such an important thing to get absolutely spot on before the start. There's the new fairing, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, it looks wicked, doesn't it? The riders...
it's massive.
Yeah, you could just about stay on the bike and when you crash and not get scraped, you know, like tuck your leg. Yeah, I hope it works. The thing is, I don't understand how they can test a brand new fairing when you don't know the track. That's the only thing. I mean, they're probably looking for... And normally you get the bike close and then try, but they know more than me about... But yeah, anyway, I'm surprised to see it on the first day. That's all I'm trying to say.
They're testing the limits as well, aren't they? I mean, let's be honest about this. These bikes are getting wider and wider.
Yeah, no, I hope it works. And it filters through to production bikes, you know, and we can feel the difference on the exit anti-wheelie on the... Because the new production bikes are getting so fast, they're a problem wheelie-wise as well. And if we, you know, the public can get to see what these things feel like on production bikes, I think it's great.
We just saw there, of course, Lorenzo going up the bike. As soon as he's pulled into the garage doors come down. That's what Ducati are like when it comes to their precious aero designs. Dovizioso then went out for a play as well. So he's having a go on it. Of course, Dovizioso spent the vast majority of last year at the sharp end. So he'll give his feedback pretty quickly on whether it works or not.
Like he was saying, and like the Honda guys were saying at the last test at Sepang, that it really does affect the setting of the bike. You know, like because it puts more weight on the front, it upsets the balance or changes the balance, and you've got to adjust the bike to suit that. And I think balance of the bike, like I've said to you before, is the most important thing that a rider works on, you know, apart from electronics, gearbox, is balance of the bike. And I can see from what the riders are saying, especially Danny Pedrosa, that this track is really affected by the 2 different sections, meaning there's a flowing section and a very hard braking stop-start section. And you have to find a compromise between the 2 bike settings, you know, which is not easy, right? Like you get it great on the brakes and it won't work in the other one. You have to find a compromise.
I suppose in some ways, although they're learning that the new circuit, this long straight that comes out of turn 2 up to turn 3 will be helping them get the bike dialed in a little for the long straight that they've got coming up in Qatar.
Yeah, I mean, you get, in the end, if you get the bike really good on the brakes, they know how to do that, you know, because they go to other tracks, like you're saying, Qatar. But then they'll go into the flowing section, you see them through here, and it won't turn, or it wants to lose the front. All I'm saying is there's a difficult compromise to get it working in both, and that sounds like what Danny's working on now, what they're all working on now, because you can make time and pass people on the brakes, but if it doesn't turn, you know, you're going to get past back there.
Well, we talked about different riders, of course, getting that set up absolutely crucial, and earlier on we were discussing Aleix Espargaro and Scott Redding. We mentioned that Scott maybe didn't quite have the 3 days that he wanted over in Malaysia, but much more positive, I think, today.
Well, Scott, we weren't able to talk with you in Sepang, so first of all, which are the first impressions with the new bike, and in which areas you think that has improved the most?
Yeah, regarding Sepang, it was quite good. We had many things to test. We started with last year's bike, then we moved to the 2018 machine. Then we had to kind of start again to find a bit the way with a few things. I feel a good improvement with the new bike, especially in braking areas, a bit more grip. I'm quite happy with the step. So over Sepang was a shakedown to find a bit of direction for me. I'm quite happy with the work that we've done there. We improved every day. So that was important for us. Regarding to come here, we had some issues with the 18 bike, so the whole of this morning I've been using the 2017 bike. We had a couple of things to reconfirm with the 17 bike, so I was just working on that this morning. And the afternoon I will go back with the 2018 bike.
Regarding the new bike, Alex, for example, told us that he was quite happy with the new engine, with the chassis also. Which things that you are trying to improve, and which things that the bike you feel that can be better in which area?
Yeah, I mean, the bike is a step of an improvement. I have not as much experience with the 17 bike as Alex, so for me they're both quite fresh machines for me. I still feel we could improve a little bit on the mid-corner speed with the bike and improve a bit the traction. But I think this is coming from more the setting, finding what is the right way to make this bike work, because it is a little bit different to the 17 bike, so we need a bit of time to find the direction we need to go in.
And about this new track, how is this layout? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's not a bad track. I think very suited for Ducati with some straights or back-to-back. But honestly, it's not bad. I was expecting a little bit worse. Yeah, this morning I didn't really get a lot of runs in the beginning, so it was later on I had to learn the track. But it seems quite fun. There's some easy, but at the same time it's technical, you know, like the braking after turn 1, you go down to 2. The braking point, there is no reference, the track goes very wide. So this is one area that seems easy, but it's quite technical, and the circuit is quite nice for me.
And last one, Scott, we saw you testing the thumb brake, I think, a new one. What are you trying, what are you looking with this new improvement?
Just, yeah, trying to find a way to use more the rear brake, because when I have big feet, I have size 45 feet, it's quite hard to get that out the way on a MotoGP bike. So we were trying with the thumb brake to improve this feeling. But like I say, we had some problem with the 18 bike, which it was mounted to, so this afternoon we will try again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff there from Scott Redding. I'm always impressed to see how he's able to hit the reset button each time he moves teams. But his back is up against the wall again. There's pressure on him.
You couldn't have said it better. Like, you could look at it two ways. He's got a teammate that is doing really good development, like I was saying how important that is, you know. The teammate knows the bike, pushes it at a really good level. But the thing that is, when you set up against it, Scott is heavier, you know, he's a bigger guy. He's on a bike that is underpowered compared to his competition, you know, like acceleration, top speed, it is slower. And he's got a teammate that, you know, to beat him, like Aleix rides hard always. He's in, like Marquez, he goes out of the box and he's 100%, you know. And we're going to see Scott shine because of the help, and if he can run with, you know, we're going to see how good Scott is, or it's going to be a hard year, you know.
Well, we just wrapping up there on Aprilia. We spoke earlier, if you've just joined us in the show, about Valentino Rossi, because it is a very special day for him. The Italian turns 39 today, so we've got to talk about Rossi. He's gone out there, looks like, if you look at the lap times, he's finished 8th today. He's only 4/10 off Cal Crutchlow's time. I'd say he's probably pretty happy with that.
I'd say definitely on the first day. I think Valley is old enough and experienced enough to know that today is about learning the track, like I was saying. And it's the third day when, you know, when all of your work that you've done over these days, you know, shows you where you really are. And at least, and then that's only the package that you'll come back with and start all over again for. And it's hard, you know, going into the test, even for guys like Valley, because you haven't got a gearbox setting, you haven't got which tyres to put in there, a bike setting. But who's more experienced than Valley for figuring that out?
Interesting comments from Valentino earlier in the season. He actually said that he wasn't a massive fan of the look of this place, so it will be interesting to hear his thoughts. He was pretty outspoken about it.
Well, I'll be honest, I feel the same, because whenever you have slow turns leading onto long straights, it kind of divides up the boys with the power and without, where if you have a flowing, you know, at least if there's stop-start, but if you don't have slow corners leading onto long straights, even the guys with the less power can run with you. So I imagine Valley's thinking that along the same lines.
Notoriously, Valentino, if he's got a blot in his copybook. It has been on new circuits, if you were to look at these results.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, and it's harder. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this Valley's good on the brakes, you know, and good at figuring out bike setup right down to morning warm-up. You know, sometimes he figures it out then, but no, I think he'll be all right.
Valentino Rossi, then we are of course waiting in anticipation to find out this big announcement as to whether he is going to continue. Hopefully we'll be able to hear from the 39-year-old at some point soon. Valentino Rossi then on the Yamaha. He was 8th today, and I believe just right on cue, Matt Burt has caught up with him.
Well, it's been a very busy day, as well as his birthday here in Thailand. We should say happy 39th birthday to Valentino Rossi. Valentino, congratulations, 39 today. And as we say, it looked like a busy day on track for you also.
Yes, like in the last 3-4 years, I think, always in my birthday, I always ride them one. So, from one point of view, is a bit difficult because you have to work. But from the other point of view, I think is the best way to do to ride my M1 in my birthday. Yes, always the work is very strong. Also in this track, also more. We are very, very, very close, everybody. And the first impression are not so bad, especially with the track. I expect maybe worst, but it's quite good. But we have to work a lot, especially in acceleration.
That seems like that's the main problem, is that you have to work on. There's a lot of low gear acceleration around this track, Valentino, and it's very, very tricky, extremely hot conditions. As bad as Malaysia for you, or even worse?
No, sincerely speaking, here is more easy than in Malaysia. Malaysia was more difficult because in Malaysia the humidity is always around 90-95%. Here, when you breathe, you feel a little bit of oxygen. In Malaysia, zero. And also, physically speaking, this track is less demanding, is a bit more easy. So you can make a longer run, you can also understand a bit better, but it's 35 degrees, so not easy.
Well, he seems happy enough, Simon. I don't think the Rossi fans should be upset to hear that good body language. I know it's his birthday, but...
Yep, we want that happy feel from Valley, so he scribbles on the line.
We certainly do.
We're for another year or two, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, we'll get more from Rossi as we get it tomorrow. Let's now move over to Red. We've been waiting for the Ducati interviews, and Matt has now got last year's runner-up, Andrea Dovizioso.
Andrea, first day here in Thailand. Which are the first impression with this new circuit?
Well, it's quite strange because there is 3 very slow corners, and all the other are you have to make the corner with a lot of angle, a lot of spin, and it's quite small, the last part of the track. With our bikes, it's quite strange. Also, the range of the corners are quite strange, but it's nice to try new things. And I feel good from the beginning on the track. Takes a little bit of time to really understand the braking point, but the speed is good. Still the lap time are not so important today because we are very close and we are working a lot. We spend the time in the afternoon to working on the fairing. Is a new part. We have to confirm in Qatar, so we have to test, and tomorrow we will test again to try to understand as much as we can.
Exactly, no, Andrea, as you said, we've seen you trying different fairings. So, how many fairings have you tried, and what are you looking to improve with this new part?
I try to respect and like many times there is a positive things and negative things. So we have to be very smart to understand which one is the best to use during the season.
And regarding the layout, it looks like a bit of Austria, this circuit. Do you think that can suit the Ducati for next October here for the Grand Prix?
I think it's a good track for us, for sure. Some corners are very similar, some other not, but yeah, not too far from Austria.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's what we said, wasn't it? That it wasn't too far from Austria, Simon, although it looks as though it might be a little closer between the manufacturers as well. We're going to talk more about all this as the days go on. Let's have a look then, finally, if you've just tuned in one more time, at the final standings before we say goodbye for today. So it was LCR Honda rider Cal Crutchlow who topped the timesheets here today with a 1:30.797. He was quickest from Suzuki rider Alex Rins. Marquez, the world champion, was third, ahead of Andrea Dovizioso, who you just heard from, and then it was Danny Pedrosa and Danilo Petrucci just ahead of his teammate Jack Miller. Birthday boy Valentino Rossi ended day one on 8th place overall, with Andrea Iannone in 9th. It was 10th for Jorge Lorenzo, ahead of Maverick Vinales, with Tech3 rider Johan Zarco in 12th. Tito Rabat going well in 13th, ahead of Alvaro Bautista, and then the two Aprilias, Alicia Spargaro and Scott Redding. Fastest rookie, that went to Taka Nakagami again, the LCR Honda rider, ahead of Carol Abraham. Franco Morbidelli, the Moto2 world champion, was 19th, ahead of KTM rider Bradley Smith. Remember, no Pol Espargaro here. Tom Luthi was 21st, ahead of Simeon Kallio. And Hafiz Syahrin, not a bad day, considering it's his first go on the bike at a brand new circuit. I hope you've enjoyed After the Flag with us here today. From myself, Steve Day, from Simon Crafar, thanks for joining us here. We're going to close the show with some footage of riders making their way to a safety commission meeting. Well, we'll bring you more news on exactly what that's all about when you come back with After the Flag tomorrow. Join us here again. It's 11 o'clock CET for the next edition of After the Flag. From Matt Burt as well, thanks for his info and his interviews. These guys are going in to have a meeting. We'll bring you all the news, gossip and intrigue here tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you for day 2.